Hi everyone, this will be your first assignment. This is your example of how you want to have your assignment laid out. As you see in the class example I have provided for you in the class, that's on Bristol board. Now, for these colors, I'm using something like this, which is quinacridone magenta. You have chrome yellow, and like I said, cobalt turquoise light, which is kind of your cyan, your blue, or your teal. Generally, what you're going to want to use for this project is going to be a nice square flat brush. That way, whenever you're painting in your layers, to get nice fill-ins on your hues or your value rectangles, you can kind of get in the edges here and create nice craftsmanship. Another thing you'll want to have with you is something like a palette knife. These generally look something along the lines of these three. And this is for mixing our paint. When we mix our paint, we're generally making sure that we mix it very thoroughly and then we apply it onto our paper here. And the last thing you're gonna need is some sort of liquid to mix your colors and clean off your brush. When I wanna go mix my colors, I'm gonna mix, and then I'm gonna come over in here, I'm gonna clean off my brush, and then I'm gonna grab a rag, clean off my brush, and move on to the next color. That is a habit that I want you all to get into very quickly, just considering that every time we're using a different color or creating a new mixture, we want to be washing off our brush, cleaning it with a rag, and then going into the next mixture. That way we're not mixing in between areas. So for starters, what we're going to do, so primaries down first, into the secondaries, and then work into the tertiaries in between, and then jumping down, yellow, blue, work on green, then work on yellow, green, and green, blue, then down to violet. I'll load up the brush pretty good. I'm gonna come over here, kind of get some nice edges, kind of keep it nice and clean. Again, coming down into those edges, nice and tight. It always matters also how you hold your brush, which end you're using. Coming in here, getting my habit down, mixing my brush, using my rag, mixing again. Making sure it's extra clean. So now we can go into our yellow. As you see, I have my primaries in here. And now I'm gonna start working on my secondary color. And then I'm gonna work on my tertiary color. Generally for this, you want your palette knife and not your brush at the moment. I started this mixture. Kind of have your magenta, you're gonna grab it and take it, and when you pull in one color to your mixing area, you're gonna wipe it off. You're gonna come in, grab the other color to the mixing area, lay that down, and then you will kind of grab one color, grab the other one, and now you can kind of start mixing. And when you're mixing, you want to always kind of smash down into the palette and generally pull the color flat, and so that there's a little bit of pressure being applied in between these two colors. Another good habit is always scraping up the mixture that you have, having it all in one specific area on your palette knife, and then pushing that back down and now thoroughly mixing that specific pile of paint. Now switching to my brush, I'm gonna do the red orange first. I'm gonna just kind of pull in a little bit more of this red right into this same orange mixture that I have already made. So I don't need to mix anything separate. If I've done this correctly, I can just kind of pull in a little bit more magenta into this orange color, scrape some of it up, and kind of mix away. Remember, we're looking for kind of clean transitions from one hue to the next. Okay, as you see here, I have my magenta, my red orange, and if you've done this correctly, what red orange truly does look like is what everyone kind of thinks of as red. So I kind of have my magenta, my red orange, my pure orange, my yellow. And so now that you see this concept, whenever you mix yellow and blue, you'll get your perfect green. You add a little bit more yellow, you'll get yellow green. You add a little bit more blue to the green mixture that you've made and you'll get green blue. This is the same concept all the way down. Violet will work the same way. Try and keep it nice and consistent, nice and clean, and generally that's pretty much the whole assignment. Some tips that you really want to focus on are clean corners, clean mixing. And definitely remember to get into the habit of kind of cleaning off your palette knives in between mixtures and cleaning off your brushes in between applications of paint. That's generally just a good habit to get into right now. Something to remember that this assignment is mostly habit building and technical skill building before we get into all of these projects and these paintings that we're going to do with where we're really applying the concepts and the theory of color. And so just keep that in mind, that this is kind of one of those projects that, you know, may feel kind of simple, but this is just, what you're learning here is, you know, subtle technical skills, good habits. And so we want to start our good habits off right now and try to keep them basically throughout the whole semester. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take our black and our white. For you, it may look something like this, black and white. Add in your black. So I'll put my black here, add in my white, and do not just leave the page white. I wanna see a nice clean white block. So I'll put my pure white here, and then I'm gonna go somewhere in the middle, around 6 or 7, and put a 50-50 mixture. So not too dark, not too light. As you have this pure white, to get to this next transition of very, very light gray, you only need one little tiny baby dot of black. Just be careful with how much you're putting in. And then by the time you're at 6 or 7, now you're kind of working really, really deeply and just adding like barely a little bit of white now into black. So just keep in mind that a little bit goes a long way, especially whenever it's black into white. So for example purposes, what I'm basically gonna do now is I'm gonna take a pretty decent heavy glob of white. I'm gonna pop that down, and I'm gonna make this value right here, one of these two. And I am going to take the smallest amount of black. There's really nothing there. And I'm gonna mix that into here. You will see how much that small amount of black makes such a large difference in being the very next value down. And so the smallest amount of black that I added there, as you can see, makes this transition just pretty seamless. Arguably, this value from the white to the next gray is actually a little bit more dramatic than I want it to be. So arguably this could actually even have more white in it. So that little thumb prick of black that I put into the white mixture is arguably maybe a little bit too much. Kind of continue to fill in, and then maybe at the end here, what you can do is something like this. Grab a little bit more white and just kind of paint over top of it. Really smooth that in and blend that in, and kind of, you know, maybe all you really needed was just a little bit more white. And you can kind of see the difference between, you know, here and here versus here and here. So, you know, something to keep in mind for the value scale. This is an example of good craftsmanship where I have kind of everything clean. You can kind of see these nice straight lines. I'm paying attention to my corners. Whereas this is an example of what I would arguably call not so good craftsmanship, kind of not staying within the lines. There will be plenty of opportunity to go paint outside the lines in this class. I would like you to kind of practice some good craftsmanship and kind of avoid some things like this, to show you that this and beyond is definitely something I would consider as kind of a lack of craftsmanship. All it takes is a little bit of slowing down and kind of paying attention to what you're doing, to kind of get that. But all in all, this is your project. As you see, you kind of have your hues, you have your value scale, and that's generally basically everything I'm looking for the first project. Thank you.